Hello, everyone. We are very happy to have you here. We have here our interview for the UNESCO Center for Peace Summer Program. I am Marilena Garcia, youth ambassador for UNESCO Center for Peace in Mexico, and we are very happy for you to be connected with us. We are with the Executive Director of UNESCO Center for Peace, Mr. Gidi Joken, and Maria Jose. The floor is yours.
Thank you. My name is Maria Jose Lourido. I am a Colombian living in Mexico. I am 17 years old. I am currently working as the chair for the World Health Organization Asia time in the UNESCO Center for Peace. And I am currently applying for university to study politics, philosophy, and economy. And I'm going to interview Mrs. Heather Caton Anderson, sorry, who is an advocate and a speaker and instructor with published works in the field of education with multiple awards. She serves as the president of the nonprofit organization, the World Genesis Foundation, for the last 10 years, and is dedicated and committed to the mission of the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, focusing on bringing educational programs to youth. World Genesis Foundation was founded in 1999, and its mission is to leave no child without hope for the future, and has been named one of the top 10 nonprofits for the last 10 years, for 6 years, sorry. In 2013, Heather aided in the launch of the U.S. Federation of Clubs, Centers, and Associations, and was elected to serve as the Secretary General for that organization. She has been an organizer and participated in multiple projects worldwide, including leading the Worldwide UNESCO Youth Club multimedia competition that started in 2014. So I'm going to conduct an interview about the session that we just had. Mrs. Heather, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Okay,
it's
so
you're part of this and part of this program.
Okay, so I'm going to start with what I think was the most interesting part of your presentation, which is the idea that there's a cultural component to peace. And so I just wanted to ask you, do you think there's like a cultural component to peace, or if it's rather a cultural definition of peace?
I think there's a cultural component to peace. And a lot of the conflicts that are happening now, 3/4 of our world's conflicts have a cultural dimension to them. And I think the driving force of the development of peace is necessary and intricate part of peace building, of building sustainable development, of innovation. I think there's a huge peace component in all of these things.
Okay, thank you. And do you have an example of one conflict or one example of peace being reached, being mindful of the cultural components of said example?
Well, look at all the things that are going on today around the world, and the cultural components that we have, whether they might be belief-based, whether they might be based in our traditions of thoughts and behaviors. I think all these things that are going on now, there's a component of focusing on the differences rather than the things that we have in common, and with more cultural understanding, with more cultural empathy, I think a lot of these disagreements can be peacefully resolved. And I think that peace also comes from inside, right? When we resolve the conflicts that are within us and we have peace within us, then those things can be transcended outwardly as well.
Which makes a perfect segue to the next question, which is from the culture wheel that you stated, which do you think is the most important thing for developing cross-cultural awareness?
Oh my gosh, that's a tough question, because all of these components have a piece in it, right? I think one of the biggest things, especially with everything that I see going on today and the different platforms we're using, is being an active listener. I think that's one of the biggest things is really truly hearing other people and making sure that they feel heard.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. So
So, well,
let's go ahead. Who's next, Arlie?
you, Mr. Gideon.
Me? Okay. So Heather, it was really interesting listening to you during the conference. And one of the slides you were showing kind of led to a very interesting discussion about some of the things that are perfectly okay in one place of the world and absolutely totally no in other places of the world.
Yeah.
The world becoming every day smaller and smaller. First of all, what advice do you give to people? That's one thing. And secondly, at some point, one of the two way of doing should be accepted or totally rejected. Which one? What guides? What do you think will guide whichever habit is going to be? Who is going to be prevail? Are you going to? The whole world is going to accept that way of thinking because it's coming from a different country, and the other just have to see it, or what do you think? How does that work?
Okay, so if I can, I wanted to make sure I understood your question. Are you asking, do you think that we're going to just have to accept everything the way that it is, or that we're going to be more malleable to change?
David, I'm asking you first of all, okay, you took the example of a finger, okay? In the US, it's a no to show your finger a certain way. In some part of the world, it's perfectly okay. So what do you think is going to happen, and what do you think is going to guide us into either totally accepting that's not a problem or totally rejecting that? So what?
Well, I don't think that, I mean, we don't have to accept them as our own, as long as we're aware of them and we have sensitivity and understanding about them. So I think that there'll be an acceptance that that diversity is there, that you're going to have cultural diversity, you have different norms. We recognize that, but at the same time, we respectfully accept that. And that's what makes us unique and amazing as well. That's my hope.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. And well, as I've understood from your conference, we need to have a cultural empathy, but with it needs to come a lot of adaptability and flexibility for us to understand and accept the culture and tradition of other people. But in that sense, stereotypes have been showing to be a great limitation for the understanding of the population. So what would be the case or the best action in that topic?
With overcoming our own stereotypes?
Yes.
I think in my opinion, I think with learning and immersing ourselves in other cultures, it helps us understand our own selves, including our own stereotypes. We can see that. One of the messages in the presentation from David Lewis Anderson, one of the founders of World Genesis Foundation, and this participated in this program for many years, is that we don't see things as they are, we see them as we are. So we see them from our own perspective, and we need to step outside of that perspective to walk in somebody else's shoes. And at the same time, when we step outside of ourselves, it enables for us to be able to see ourselves from a different perspective, including our own stereotypes, right? And I think that's one of the first steps that we can each take personally and make that personal choice to help overcome some of those stereotypes. If we're not aware of them, if we don't know what they are, how are we going to move beyond them?
Perfect. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. So now we'll proceed to the next round of questions. So Maria Jose, your next question, please.
Okay, so in part of your presentation, I saw that there was a slide that said that understanding people does not mean accepting them. And I want to know, what's the difference between understanding and accepting, and in what way can you get to respect and understand people without accepting them?
It's a very good question. And I would say that when to understand and have empathy and have that cultural awareness doesn't mean I have to take that on as my own. I might not take it on as my own piece or my own belief, but I can have respect and accept that that's your belief or your tradition or your culture. Does that make sense? But
Yeah.
I don't have to take it on as my own, but I accept that that's a different way of thinking or a new way of thinking, or maybe just different from my own culture. It
Okay.
goes along with that, having that that empathy and that cultural sensitivity.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
So, Mr. Gidijoken?
Okay, thank you very much. I will let, first of all, before I ask my question, I just wanted to say one example is that in some areas, I'll take two religions that are prevalent, the Muslim and a Christian, all right? So a Christian, when he's praying God, is looking down, right? He's looking into the sky, right? And Muslim, they usually go on the floor, right? So as long as they understand one another and accept one another, there will be no, because it's actually the same God, right? But if they don't accept, then they're like, okay, no, you are looking up, I'm not looking at, we are not looking at the same person, it's not the same God, and then start fighting. So that's an example that I wanted to bring to the table. Okay.
Absolutely.
And yes, and then my next question to you is that culture, how is culture relevant in the development?
In the development of
Sustainable development goals, the role of culture, how is it going to help us to be a better person, to bring about real world?
well,
the role of
of
culture.
course, yeah, absolutely. With sustainable development and with the and with our goals that we have. I mean, understanding everyone's culture, being a global having a global platform and being able to work with each other, being able to talk with each other is going to bring about new ways of thinking. It's going to shift our paradigms in our language, in our thoughts, maybe even open up to other possibilities. And within this, we have these eureka moments. We have innovation. We have new development in all disciplines, whether it be science or art or culture. We in communication, in the way that we work together. And it's going to enable us to create these new horizons of what's to come in our future. And we may not know all of what those are at the moment. We're maybe in the midst of thinking about them and developing them currently. But I think
Thank
it's going to
you.
play a huge role in whatever that future is. We are all international and global citizens, and working together and learning about each other, I think, will be key in all of that future.
Yes. Yes, of course. And now for my next question, you mentioned being a global citizen, and this is actually what I consider a dream of mine, because I think that I'm still on my way to learning, and also what we've been discussing of understanding different cultures, and for me to recognize that like every person has at least one characteristic that's different than me. But on that sense, how would you define a global citizen?
Oh, that's a good question. A global citizen. How would you define a global citizen? Like, or are you still in
Oh gosh,
development of that? I
I
think
am
I think
It's the
we're all
first time that the speaker
developing
asks me a question.
I think we're all still in development of what does it mean to be a global citizen. It means to have an open heart, an open mind, to be to have new experiences, to take in as much information as possible. That you can from around the globe. It's to develop that empathy for others and around the globe. And I think within all that learning, within the experiences that you have in life, you kind of morph into being that global citizen.
Thank you. Yeah.
I hope they answered the questions. I think I'm still in development of that myself. I am forever a student of learning. So I'm still
Yes.
morphing myself.
Yeah, and especially well for me as a teenager, like I feel I have so much to learn, and I feel like sometimes I feel like I know everything, but like this is what I know, and the world is just enormous. But well, we'll now move on to
The more you explore, and it's interesting concept because through our discussion, we talked about how the world almost feels smaller, right? It gets smaller because we find all these commonalities in these things and it feels smaller. But at the same time, as we're experiencing this, it also gets bigger as well. And I find the more that I learn, the more that I explore, the more that I see, the more that I understand that there's so much more to see and there's so much more to understand and there's so many more layers that I haven't even gotten to yet. But that's the amazing part of this journey. And we're all in it together.
yes.
And I also believe that we as people have the obligation to keep learning our whole lives, especially in a world that changes as fast as ours. Because what we might believe is true right now will change in the next few years. So we have an obligation to keep learning and to keep being inquisitive and to keep like expanding our knowledge and our horizons.
That's
Yes.
right. We question everything. And Maria, I like what you said is that we have to be lifelong learners, right? That's one of the things that we have the opportunity to be is lifelong learners. And, there's an old saying that says that still water can be stagnant, right? It could be not good for you to drink if the water is very still. But when we have moving and flowing water, when we're constantly challenging ourselves, challenging the paradigms, questioning things, that's when things stay healthy. That's when things stay expansive. And it can translate from the macro of our own selves to the micro of our continuous expanding mind and universe, right?
Yes, yes, of course. And now we're approaching the end of the interview. And I may tell you, Mrs. Heather, you have such like an out of the box perspective on how we can even like think differently of our everyday life. And I in all of this week, I've never seen the delegates so excited about a conference and so chatty and so open to share their ideas. And I want to thank you for that. It was amazing to be part of it. Maria Jose.
The one
I just
thing,
I want to say that my inspiration, my passion, my fire inside of me comes from all of you. It comes from experiences like this. It comes from platforms like this that you and Guy have developed in order for us. I'm getting chills right now. In order for us to be able to have these conversations and share these experiences. I would leave everybody with the question of what can you do today to celebrate cultural diversity, whether that's with your family in your home, whether it's on these social media platforms, or whether it's in the work that you do in your organizations. Never stop challenging yourself, never stop moving and growing. And I'm just looking forward to continuing the journey with everyone here.
okay, thank you so much, Heather. I think one of the takeaways of what we just said is something that I heard before from some of the wise, from the wise men. That's how we say the wise women is that
Yeah.
the less we know, the more we think we know. the more we know, the less you realize we know. So that's
True wisdom.
that's yeah, exactly. That's the reason. So I want to thank you and the whole
Thank you.
team for an amazing IMUN this year. And you see that the COVID, the pandemic didn't deter us, right? We keep on keeping on. So thank you very
Yeah.
much. You all have a wonderful Sunday. Maria Joyce, this is amazing having you on the team, and you are doing an amazing job. So thank you very much. Bye bye.
Thank you,
Thank
Guy.
you very much, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.